Forgetting Ashville is an actual play Chronicles of Darkness podcast set in the fictional New England town of Ashville. We're all friends, we're here to have fun, but our story can include graphic violence, drug use, sexual content, and other mature themes. Content warnings can be found in the show notes. We've talked at our table about safety, comfort, and consent, both as players and storytellers. We know what to expect, we're all excited to be here, and we want you to feel the same, so listener discretion is advised. Now let's forget our troubles. Last time on Forgetting Ashville. In the Hissil, the group defeated Rot's Caress. Jesse led the pack to trap all of the Becheloux, and John froze them all to death. Lola told John what happened in Ramona's dreamscape. John and Aviva discussed feelings, and finally kissed on the rooftop. John summoned a black angel of Stygia in order to get the Obsidian Dagger needed to kill the Antithanitou. After much argument, the group is sent into the Underworld. The four of you stand on the streets of ancient Miskatonic. The massive, natural, bumpy spires that stretch into the darkness above you. Now that you're closer to them, you can see they're wet from the waters above, dripping down and creating these natural formations. Lights inside these alien towers from like little windows that had clearly been like hand carved, flickering not with electric light but with candlelight. Deeper into the city, more towards where you saw that massive shape move, there's a large light of what is likely a bonfire or, central fire pit of some sort. Now that you've stepped through and the gate is gone, now that the four of you are in the Underworld, each of you has somewhat of a different natural instinctive reaction. Dan, you feel yourself cut off completely from the spirit. Much like when John was in the Hissil and felt no matter and no death, there is no spirit here. This is a place of death, and while for the moment you are fine, you instinctually understand, you know that if you spend more than, based on your rating, a couple of days here, you're going to start to lose it. For now, you're okay. You're in control, but you do not want to linger down here.
I brought the spirit with me.
You will be lost, yes. Because there is not many ways to regain essence down here. Lola, you are immediately familiar with the death contract. And what that means for you, and John had mentioned something about this once, but what this means is you are immediately aware. The contract with death is that all things die. All things. So somewhere down here, there may be a dominion, a place in the underworld for the dead gentry. They are not the eternal beings they pretend to be. John, you are flooded with the energies of death. You can feel that your magics down here are heightened because you are a Moros in the Underworld. And Aviva, you're back. You may not have been to this place before. Certainly you've never been to Miskatonic. But the smell of the waters, you may even be able to place what river that water that has created this place, these stalactites have dripped down from some of the upper levels, closer to the river cities. And you are aware, you may not know it yet, that there are laws in place, old laws, capital O, capital L, that are set in place in ancient Miskatonic.
With my knowledge of the rivers of the Underworld, being able to smell it, maybe possibly getting some visual cues, might I be able to remember some of the rules of this domain if I had heard them?
Tell you what, roll me an occult intelligence with your spec and rivers.
Yep. Spec is 1 die, yeah?
It is, yes.
Thank you. Does the cult bonus apply?
I'm sorry, what bonus?
Spinning wheel.
Oh, spinning wheel. No, not for knowing about the Underworld.
Gotcha. One success.
So you're not sure, thinking about it, what river exactly, whether it's the River of Blood. Probably not. This is not a bloody... It's probably not the River of Seed. The Ereshkagala, the Anahita, the Phlegathon. Like, you're not sure which river this might be, but you had heard at one point about some of the lower mysteries. You, in fact, have seen some things deeper than maybe even a lot of ghosts initially tread. You know that there is a gravity to the Underworld that pulls all the dead to its center eventually. You're aware that you are in the lower mysteries, just where the Ocean of Fragments lies. And within these lower mysteries lie the dead dominions. And this dominion, Miskathon, sometimes known as Ancient Miskathon, is a very old one. And you are aware of, I will say, 2 of the old laws that reside within this place. 1, only the village chosen may touch the dagger of Miskathon. And 2, nothing may be built within Ancient Miskathon.
All right, everyone. The short of it, hedge rules. Stay together. Don't touch shit. Gets a bit more complicated than that. There's rules here. I don't know all of them, but I know a couple. Important thing about the rules, you break them, you get caught. Immediately, they will be enforced by the Kerberoy. That's not a fight we want to have.
What's a Kerberoy?
Well, you'll basically know one when you see them, but they don't all look the same. Some of them look like legends, things that you'd recognize from, I don't know, mythology classes. But others of them look a bit more like the fucking wannabe angel we just dealt with. Some of them just really look like, I don't know, death. It's hard to describe, but you'll know what they are, unfortunately. We don't want them mad at us. They'll stay mad. There's 2 rules I know about, and they're pretty relevant, unfortunately. First thing, it's just the village chosen who are allowed to touch the dagger that we're trying to get to. And the second thing is that nothing may be built here.
I'm not planning on trying to break that, but does, stacking rocks count as building something?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It tends to be difficult to build anything down here. I don't really know what they'd take that much offense to, but I know that we need that dagger. So, if it's not that literal, maybe we can grab it without touching it, but I don't know how literal it's gonna be.
Village chosen, there's a village here?
Yeah, the kind of run-down place over there. I mean, I'm surprised this deep. It's not usually much of a community. I guess we could try and convince someone. But resources here are rare. People kind of gang together and either use that to survive or use that to survive from taking from others. So we're going to have to be careful.
I follow you.
Aviva, you are also aware that sometimes some of the river cities, even sometimes some of the dominions, will crumble, will break off, will fall into the waters. And when that happens, if they cannot get out in time, and the waters are lethal to the dead, they churn and are choked. Tortured souls who could not find shelter for whole seasons of the dead afterwards. So it's possible, if there's a village down here, that some other place collapsed and the survivors found themselves here. Better here, maybe, than swept away and destroyed in the waters.
Step lightly and listen to the dripping. You don't want it to get louder, because you don't want to get deeper. The lower you are, the worse it is, and we're already pretty low. And this is not a stable place. The rivers, everything, it's always eroding down to the ocean of fragments, and that is, while I understand a compelling title, not something we want to see today. Or really, ever.
This is a pretty terrible tourist destination.
Yeah. 0 out of 5 on Yelp.
Let's get moving then. Faster in, faster out.
John gives a nod and will actually be following Aviva. As he does, his eyes are going to kind of be half lidded, and with his hands open and palms out, he starts drawing in the place and will attempt to recover mana as they go.
Okay. Doing so does not seem to break one of the laws of the Dominion.
I will regain 8 points of mana.
Extraordinarily helpful.
So do you guys want to go check out that altar, or do you want to go talk to the people here?
I don't want to break rules,
Yeah, me
but I do
neither.
want to find the loopholes.
Well,
But I defer to you to what's the better choice here.
people here tend to value things. I mean that. I know that sounds vague as hell, but essentially, because so little... They're trying to get... essence might not be the right word.
What things are of higher value?
Evocative things. They're ghosts. They miss life. It's hard to describe, but if I pat down my pockets, what's the chance that I have something extra in them since we're just vibing at John's?
It's not unreasonable that you would have some, random whatever. What would Aviva have grabbed at John's house?
I'm gonna roll some dice to see what kind of things I have in my pockets.
Yeah, sure.
A 6, a 7, and a 9. So I basically figure that should mean that there are 2 medium boring objects and 1 interesting object additional.
Sure.
For the medium boring objects, how about pen, piece of paper, interesting object, snack, some kind of food?
Yeah.
Sounds good. So she'll pull out the snack. Let's say it's an apple. That seems fitting. And she shows the apple and she's like, it's just interesting. It's not something that's down here. I don't know how to describe it all that well, but it's maybe worth a shot to barter with.
Okay.
Is art of any value?
John takes off his hoodie and sits down and organizes his hoodie, the old coin he carries, a bullet, his chalk, his little lighter, his cell phone, though I think Dan still has that,
Dan is the one with the cell phone.
wallet, and the rings that he wears.
Lola gives herself a quick pat down, and she's got a couple band-aids for when she was wearing her point shoes to throw on in case she got a blister that started bleeding, but
Yeah, Lola doesn't have a lot.
no.
I probably have a cell phone.
John's cell phone, yes.
Yeah.
That you definitely do, yeah.
John also has cigarettes.
Lola, that kind of thing. A lot of people here are passing time, so maybe they might be interested. I don't really know what kind of people these are.
I can dance for them if they want it. Something to offer.
I mean, if we have an exit plan, we could just take it and go.
Yeah, but the Kerberoy will get to us immediately. And it's kind of like, again, it's kind of like that nerd-ass angel. Won't stop coming.
Aviva, you are aware that the Kerberoy, one of the rules of the Kerberoy is they cannot leave their own dominion.
They
So-
can send people.
Oh, I didn't say you're safe completely. I said they can't leave.
Somebody's gonna have to touch the dagger to wield it in the one way or another.
Well, that might just be a rule here in the Dominion. Touching it outside of here, I would not think would break the rule. So it's more a factor of leaving with it, which Johnny seemed pretty confident about how we could leave quickly.
I am.
So I'm down to try to talk to people if you want. Maybe get a better view of how these rules work.
We can always run and gun later.
Yeah.
As you guys are talking, a man steps out from around a corner of one of these natural spire buildings. He's dressed in the style of not just a colonial settler, but a pilgrim. He's got the hat and the buckle shoes and everything. He's holding in one of his hands an ancient musket. And he looks at the group of you with a little bit of concern, a little bit of fear, and a little bit of defensiveness, and says, "Pray pardon me, travelers, But might I be mistaken in thinking that you art living?
Lola looks to Aviva.
What's it to you?
I am the enforcer of the laws of the village in this place, and thus it be my business what outsiders come here. Forgive me for saying. And it's weird because he seems actually, like many of the dead, comfortable in Aviva's presence, but then also says, you art not a goodly Christian woman, and so I am curious as to your coming to this place.
Aviva tries to smother a smile.
None of you art expected here, and forgive, but we do not get many visitors, for we are simply trying to exist and wish no trouble of outsiders.
I don't think it's our wish to trouble you either.
We are waiting in this place of purgatory for our time to reach the kingdom of heaven, and do not wish to be you demons and temptresses. And he looks at the two women, afterwards looks at the two men, and goes, for you be not of the goodly Christian dead.
Is Lola masked here, or is she still...
Lola is masked here.
Okay.
Yes. So what this fucking 1600s Puritan is seeing is...
Just hot people.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a crew of
Hot people in
hotties.
shorts. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
skin-tight clothing.
Aviva is one of the bound. Ghosts are comforted by the presence of the bound.
Lola gives Aviva a look like, I'll talk if you want me to, but I feel like you know more about this than I do.
She gives Lola an inclusive half nod, effectively, that says, you can talk as I can. And she looks to this guy and she says, we're from another place and time, but we're not what you're asking.
And our goal isn't to stay or to cause you to deviate from your road to heaven. We seek to leave as soon as possible.
Good. I believe that were the men, and he looks at the two men, and the women of the village lay eyes upon you, it might turn them from their good and Christian thoughts.
Could you tell us what your laws are here, if you are an agent of them?
Our laws are God's laws.
And those that you follow in addition to navigate purgatory.
There are many challenges set before us on the path to the kingdom of heaven.
Those challenges include that place over there, and Aviva nods over to where the altar would theoretically be.
Those who falter in their goodly steps, in their moral righteousness, they are taken by the beast, and it is our duty to have those who are not firm and pure in thought be taken. This is our purgatory. Steps towards heaven, and the chaff be tossed away to feed the great beast. It's a little unclear, obviously, when this guy is talking about, like, his ideas of God and heaven and the devil from, like, an old settler, like, Puritan ideology. And when his idea of what that is starts to mesh with the reality of this is not... So there are actually dominions out there. Aviva, you would know this. There are dominions out there that actually reflect ideas of the underworld. Let's say, like, the Christian idea of hell, or the Elysian fields, or, like, that kind of thing is not unheard of in the underworld. This is not a place that matches up to what the Puritans would understand. So how much of this is him justifying in his own brain, and how much of it... I mean, there are also dominions that just... You forget everything about who you are, and now you must act this way. When it gets to these intertwined kind of, like, here are ancient settlers, how did they find this place and come to be here? Who the fuck knows? It starts to get a little questionable about what part of what is what.
In order to do a good deed, we need something, an object from there.
Good deeds that would speed your exit from this place. It would not be kindly of me to turn you away. However, I would request that you keep yourselves hidden from the rest of the village. They need only know that someone appeared and I dealt with it. The sorts of temptations that would be offered to their eyes. And He gives a look at, like, all of you have appearance traits, and all of you are dressed in modern clothes. All of you are canonically hot. His eyes kind of particularly linger on Lola, who's, like,
Wearing spandex and appearance
exceptionally attractive and, like, wearing shorts. Like, if you would be so kind, it would be a show that you meant what you said in this place.
Would it be to your benefit if you were seen banishing me?
He looks immediately torn. I'm not even going to make anybody roll an empathy check. Yes, that would be great for my reputation in the village. And also, but you said you're not actually demons, so I don't want to lie, because that's a sin. Like...
Or if you would be so kind as to provide a way for us to be more covered in accordance with your customs, we could still remain out of sight, but that could add towards our respect.
If you would cover yourselves and dress as good and fine Christian people, then this would be very helpful. I could find you all clothes.
I would cover myself in accordance with your laws.
Aviva is making sure she doesn't talk, so she just nods.
Very well. Do not move from this place. There's going to be a gathering soon anyhow, so long as you avoid the square, I shall return shortly. And he sort of gives all of you, like, an attempt at an intimidating eye, but, like, clearly you're all not ghosts. Even Aviva is not quite like a wan ghost in this place. And he just jogs off.
Aviva turns and waggles an eyebrow at Lola, but otherwise
Lola blows her a kiss.
Temptress. And with that, she doesn't really move, but, you know, so that she's a little bit out of sight lines if possible.
I can't tempt anyone whose mind wasn't already on that road anyway.
Okay, why are we dealing with this guy?
Because they have to be the ones to touch the knife,
No,
to follow the rules.
somebody has to be the chosen, but why are we dealing with this guy?
Because he approached us.
So we can deal with another guy.
Listen, I'm down for ideas, but the way I see it, we have to figure out a way to get this dagger out without touching it. I thought that maybe the coverings could help with that, or that we could get one of these guys to move it for us.
I mean, he seems self-appointed. It seems like the type, you know? So, I don't know. We could probably just ignore him.
What if
It's possible, yeah.
What if we just asked him to get it for us as the Good Samaritan?
Well, you could give it a try.
You know, this guy doesn't seem like the type. Look, he's like all about his own suffering or whatever. So, just, I don't know. Why are we dealing with him? He seems very stuffy.
If he's like the rest of this town, Stuffy's gonna be definitional.
I'm sure he would say he is as God made him.
That's great, but we don't know any better. We've dealt with
All
one
right.
person.
Dan, what do you propose instead?
Why don't we just go and keep going? This is this one guy. There could be a whole town of normal people, and this one dude's the one banished to the outside because he's a big weirdo.
You're not wrong. There could be just one Rob.
Rob is thrashing in his seat with laughter.
Listen, there could be one Puritan guy stuck down here in an entire community of people who aren't like that.
But we
But-
don't know that.
We don't. And the way I see it, at least that's usually how I got by, is just trying to follow the rules.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. Just time is an essence thing, isn't it? And just like, I don't know.
yes, we need to get out.
Also, does the time even move the same way down here? Because, like, we should probably...
Time's not real.
Yeah, it super does not move the same way.
Right. So, I feel like waiting around and dealing with this dude's religious bureaucracy is just going to take us forever.
Well, all we're doing now is, from my understanding, he's just getting us close so we can walk freely about the village, which will get us closer to that place. And
Secondary, he's not going to find clothes for me. Period.
Oh, not Puritan clothes that size.
can't you be like a wolf?
Yeah,
I don't
what-
know if they're going to be okay with a wolf roaming around.
Yeah,
What
the
if-
dude was not into demons, okay?
What if I'm riding it, though?
I think you will just make the Temptress thing just stick a little bit
Okay.
more.
I think
I-
that will be worse.
I have a solution. What if we're just ghosts?
They're not gonna fall for that, I don't think.
Even if I turn you all into ghosts?
Bro, I don't want to die today.
I don't want to be dead.
Okay, no, the visage of ghosts. I can make you look like ghosts.
That's not what you said.
Can you do that?
Yes.
Like, if
We
it
just-
makes us move faster, I'm for it.
Sure.
We just look like them, right?
Right. I'm not killing you all. I promise.
Lola gives a long look.
I promise I'm not going to kill you.
I don't think he's going to kill us.
I know, but I have a lot of thoughts going, like, he was right, the gentry can die, and that means
Good.
I can die, and that I don't want to be that.
Let's get it done. See if we can ignore Stuffy McStuffface.
Does that sound good?
The dying can't recommend it.
He sighs dramatically. I'm casting magic on you.
I low-key love that Aviva steps up to the Chaos Goblin role in the absence of Jesse so that Lola doesn't have to do it alone.
Well, we're in the Underworld. This is like her place to fuck around.
John marks spots with chalk and instructs everyone to kind of stand on their little X. And then he starts to inscribe little high speech terms as he prepares to cast. 5 successes.
Exceptional success. Which
I
means you
go
do it.
to 9 mana.
Which also means, with an exceptional success, you will accomplish this task before, as Dan said, Stuffy McStufferson comes back and sees the witch performing magic.
Yeah, I didn't care if you saw me.
I figured you didn't, but it makes it a little more convenient if you can just
It's like,
go.
I drain you of mana.
What is that, you old witch?
Please step. I'm so mana broke, man. It's been rough. As that happens, before he arrives, everyone starts to take on this gaunt, ghostly, dead visage.
The group of you look dead. You more appear sort of in keeping with the guy that you were just talking to. None of you look like pilgrims or Puritans or anything like that, but you do look like you belong in the Underworld now.
Lola just kind of looks over her hands and kind of like hugs herself, like telling herself it's not real, it's just pretend.
Did I
Mhm.
look like this the first time I walked out?
No, because
Okay.
you sort of bypassed this step by becoming
Yeah.
one of the bound at the moment of your death.
Yeah, in that case, Aviva actually does really take a second to take that difference in, because she wasn't sure.
Yeah, that Black Angel guy did not seem too terribly happy with us, so I imagine that if there was any way to mess with us, he probably did.
I don't know, he didn't seem that clever.
He could have just dropped us next to the dagger. I'm not sure why we're all the way out over here.
It doesn't do tricks, which means that if he didn't drop us directly in front of the dagger, it's because that would have been a needlessly dangerous choice.
What do you think? Should we ask this guy to help us get that dagger? If that's part of it, right? If dropping us next to the dagger, maybe that would have been against one of the rules. I don't know.
Yeah, for an enforcer of the rules, he's not very good at explaining them.
Let's take the clothes, get changed, head on in.
Yeah.
Let's at least get a look at the altar.
He returns, carrying like some clothes in his hands, in his arms. He at first looks like off-put. Like, wait a minute, you were just not dead and now you're dead. But something about his existence and this place makes him not question it after a moment. That sometimes, you get the impression maybe that sometimes outsider ghosts just show up here, and then they too become part of ancient Miskathan. And he hands them over and says, "Yes, well, for your modesties," and gives over pilgrim clothes
Thank you.
that don't fit great and absolutely do not fit great on Dan. Dan is like going to bust seams on this shit.
Yeah, I flex a little just to make sure it does.
The seam pops,
Yep.
100%.
Those were hand sewn.
Very well. Welcome to your new homes. As a side effect of him just suddenly and inexplicably accepting that you are ghosts now come to ancient Miskathan, he doesn't quite seem to remember that he was trying to speed you out of here, and does seem to now fall into the role that he would take of bringing new arrivals into the flock. This way, we were just about to have a gathering in the square. I would ask that as new members walking on the path to God's kingdom, that you remain quiet and observe for but a moment, as we are in at a time of choosing, and starts walking towards where the bigger light came from, which you could presume is like a bonfire in the town square. So you follow this guy towards the center of the village. By center of the village, you do see that there is a bonfire there. It's sort of a ghostly pale flame, but it does exist, and it is there. It does provide warmth and light in this alien place. Aviva, as you walk through, you start to get a better idea of what you may not build here means. All of the structures look like they were formed naturally. Even the hollowing out, it doesn't look like they built any architecture here. It's that they used what is here to create a place to shelter.
Yeah.
They didn't build anything.
The town square itself just seems to be sort of a mound, like a small, low dome. And in the center, occasionally hitting the fire with a little hiss, is where there's a slow and steady drip, drip, drip of water above. And you get the impression that this is just a low place, a town gathering area, because it is a stalactite that has not yet, or a stalagmite that has not yet formed. It is sort of the low dome of one. And in the center of that is the bonfire that is just burning and burning. And there is not, for a second, with all the talk of Puritans and witches and all that shit, you think maybe there would be a post or something in the middle of the bonfire, but there is not. A short way away from, say it says the town center or the town square, but it's actually on one end of what is this little island kingdom, this little domain, where two rivers meet and then continue on downwards in this roaring rush. And at the edge is a naturally formed, yet oddly perfect stone tablet or altar. A table made of that same stalagmite material. And resting on top of it is a dagger of pure obsidian that looks like it was chipped and chiseled away with ancient stoneworking techniques that predates any of them, the people here. Now, in the town square, gathered around the fire, are just a couple dozen individuals, all dressed like pilgrims. Most of these individuals have the look of the guy who led you in here, like official, actual pilgrims. But as you look closer, some of them in here, once in a while, are dressed as pilgrims, holding themselves as pilgrims, participating in the group prayers, as the Puritans do, but kept on their ghostly faces are modern makeup. There's a woman here with cat eye makeup, but she's dressed and acting as a Puritan. There is a man here who very clearly is wearing a pair of modern glasses. He's got they're very clearly a little big, maybe 80s style, but modern glasses. But he is dressed and acting as a pilgrim, and you get the sense that the longer you are here, the more you start to become a part of whatever the fuck this is. Forgetting yourself, forgetting anything you used to be, and becoming one of the pilgrims who, kind of inexplicably, exist within this ancient, pre-human place. And the last thing that you'll notice is that right in front of the altar is a hole, kind of eroded through the stone of this place, that drops down a little ways into dark black water. And he leads you in and goes, "As I said, this is a time of choosing, so God be with you all. And I ask you to keep quiet during the choosing. And we will see upon whose neck hangs the yoke of sin." And he puts his head down in prayer, and everyone is just quietly praying with their eyes closed around the bonfire in front of this chthonic altar.
Aviva does look like she intends to stay quiet. There's a sort of nod to the assembled group. Her eyes flicker to that little hole near the altar. Not lingering too long, but there's a curiosity, a potential understanding, but without any answers, she seems inclined to just wait and see how the choosing occurs.
As you are all standing quietly for a moment, one of the men, the one in the glasses, the modern glasses, looks up and his eyes lock on Lola. In that very casual way that guys will look up and be like, oh my god, a hot woman. Like, even under all the, like, the Puritan garb, it's just like, oh, newcomer, hot. And as soon as his eyes lock and he has some sort of thought, the collective goes, Goodman Eric has been chosen. And the others grab him instantly. And he starts protesting. He goes, no, 'twas but a thought. The Lord places temptation before us, and I reject temptation, and none of them seem to be listening or caring, and he is dragged kicking towards the altar. And despite his protests, as the others start to pray, and Goodman Eric is pulled up onto the altar and held down by 4 of the burlier men from the village. The man who found you earlier looks and goes, Lord, blessed be thy duty, and goes forward and approaches the altar.
Lola is vibrating. She's not okay. And she looks to Aviva for, like, what do I do?
Aviva locks eyes with Lola and gives, like, a bit of a head tilt, like, if you want to get involved. There's sort of a quiet counting of heads, of how many ghosts exactly they'd have to be against.
About 24 that you can see here in the village square.
Mm-hmm.
The sheriff or whatever, the guy who led you in here, goes over and stands behind the altar. And as Goodman Eric is pressed down on the altar, some of the others holding him down pull his shirt open.
Lola can only take so much guilt before she just yells, Stop! I am the temptress. He is innocent. He follows God's path. Take me instead. And she pulls her bonnet off to reveal red hair.
Fucking red hair, huh?
Yeah.
Red hair, wow.
As soon as you do that, another one of the old laws of this place asserts itself to you. Lola, you are the chosen villager, and everyone here will see your sacrifice. What I need is a resolve composure check.
I will spend a willpower.
Probably a good idea.
One success.
3 successes.
The 3 of you are tied to Lola. You arrived here with her in this place, and all of you can feel this compulsion to just follow God's path and sacrifice the chosen villager to the beast. But all of you are new arrivals here, and all of you are made of sterner stuff, and all of you still have your senses of self. So you do not have to do this thing, and your thoughts are your own.
Aviva is going to try and sneak a peek to Dan and to John and to walk up with the crowd as if she's going to be helping as the compulsion directs, but more so she can back up Lola. Sorry, so that she can back up the temptress in her play.
John gives like a conspiratorial nod and comes along and is prepared to help with some magic.
Dan also meets her nod and then starts taking off the jacket because we're clearly going to go fight with these guys.
So here's the thing. Even with Dan doing that, I do not need any sort of subterfuge roll from any of you. All of them are so swept up in the compulsion of the choosing that they don't even notice. Like, truly, unless you guys start, like, throwing punches and screaming about how you're demons, like, I don't think any of them are going to notice.
Tempting.
Goodman Eric is let go and is also immediately joining the crowd to go sacrifice the chosen villager.
Who has the dagger right now?
It is placed back upon the altar currently.
Who had it, though?
The guy who led you in here.
Stuffy McStufferson.
Stuffy McStufferson.
As we have named him.
He had picked it up, but it is placed back down almost as if it is not being used in the choosing, that's just where it sits. So until you're on the altar, he's probably not going to pick it up again.
I'm going to make every effort to stick very close to Lola, to the point of not only being more able to help her, but to box out those who would clearly harm her.
The three of you were right next to her, so like if you're just sort of pretending to escort her up or whatever,
Yep.
and like boxing people out, that's they just allow for that.
I'm just waiting for the signal from either Aviva or John to start attacking things.
To start punching.
Yeah. I know it's coming.
Now, the word of law, as it was said, was that the chosen villager can touch.
As you're seeing the choosing in action, you can sort of deduce, not maybe the full extent of one of the other laws, but one of the other laws is when participating in the choosing, one of the villagers is chosen to conduct the sacrifice. That one may also touch the dagger.
As I'm sticking by Lola, and we get closer to this dais and towards the point of sacrifice, I'm going to lock eyes with Dan, who has taken off his shirt and indicated that he has...
Ready to rumble.
No, what's the exact expression?
Consent to tussle?
He is ready to tussle. There we go.
There you go.
And I will dip my head towards the guy who is to hold the dagger, to indicate him as a future target.
He nods back, even though you weren't nodding at him. He like nods towards the group of you in acknowledgement, but there's no recognition that you guys just showed up here on his face.
Essentially, if you do that, and then like all you have to do along with that is put like a stop hand.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you look like
Yeah.
you're ready to go, then I'm going to throw up a hand to tell you to stop.
Yeah, like a little weight hand is all I'm looking, because otherwise you're just indicating, get him.
I figure then that I make my indication towards this guy. You ready to go?
Yep.
I lift my hand in a pause, stop kind of
Yeah, it
motion.
could be like down below a little bit low. Like I'll see, I can see that, but like that's all
Yeah.
I need, because otherwise this is like, all right, like you see the arms start to loosen up.
The four of you, with the crowd behind you. So the crowd behind you, now that the four of you were bringing her up, just as the four of you were going, it's the three of you, and there's like one other guy from the crowd, because it was four people who hold down the chosen. So just one of the burly guys from before who was holding down Goodwin and Eric is also there. As the group of you pass that pit, the hole down, there is movement in the dark water below. Something big and absolutely alien is in that water.
Well, not liking that sound. My plan is to watch Lola for when she's ready to make some movement towards this dagger. If that's the sense that I'm getting from Lola, is that a reasonable thing that I might have concluded from the way that you're conducting yourself? Are your eyes going to the dagger?
Her eyes are going to the dagger, to her own hand.
Okay.
Like if Aviva's on her arm, she will kind of eyes to the dagger, eyes to her hand.
In that case, I'm basically waiting for Lola's cue to sick down on that dude and to potentially protect Lola from the burly fourth myself. Get our heists going.
Stuffy is walking around and is moving as if to reach for the dagger now.
Lola puts out her hand. If I am to atone for my sins, I will do it myself.
This is not the way of the choosing. And he grabs it up.
I start casting as he's approaching.
Lola, you can try and snatch it before he snatches it.
Can I spend a willpower on it?
Yeah, you can spend a willpower on that. Roll me your wits plus your dexterity. And he will do the same.
1 success.
He has 2.
Damn.
And he grabs the dagger and waits for the others to push you down onto the altar.
She looks to Aviva specifically, says, take it from here.
Aviva repeats the motion to Dan, but aggressively this time.
Goodman's strong arm, expecting the others to help him, because why would he not, starts to push Lola down onto the altar. This is a very strong man. Maybe not Dan strong, but he's a strong guy.
Yeah, I'm tackling the good man.
While this is going on, there comes a point where I just reach out towards the person that's holding the dagger, and I'm just going to rip his essence into my hand.
Oh, never mind. I'm about to.
I have 5 successes. Regain the spent mana and regain me another point of mana. And I will rip 5 corpus from him and convert it into mana.
He buckles and drops the knife. 5 corpus is a lot.
Lola will grab the dagger if it falls from his hand.
It does, and you were trying to do it, so you can snatch it up.
Grabs it, spends a glamour, and vanishes from sight.
You are currently being grappled.
Am I? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm about to tackle. I'm going to move my
Alright.
Dan's
target
gonna
and
handle
go
that.
for
Okay.
Pilgrim Strong Arm there.
Then I just grab the dagger and hold it.
Yeah, Dan, roll me brawl plus strength.
Making myself stronger. Defense?
3. Not a lot of fighting goes down here.
2 successes.
2 successes. What are you trying to do? Take him down to get him off Lola, or do damage?
Just get him off. So that would be...
Yeah, you can just like tackle him or shoulder check him or
Yeah.
grapple him away from her or
Yeah,
whatever
if he
you want
wants
to do
to.
here.
dramatically fall into that hole or whatever. Well, sure, whatever.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna roll a die here. Yeah, he rolled a 1 on a chance die here. I just was like, there's no way. Yeah, okay. This is what happens when you put things up to dice.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So Dan shoulder checks. It was essentially like the village blacksmith here, away from Lola. He is violently ripped off of Lola, and then stumbles backwards down the slick surface of like the stairs, falls into the pit, and then screams as something huge and dark wraps around him and pulls him into the blackness.
Lola spends a glamour and disappears.
Heaving on the ground. He doesn't have to breathe, obviously, he's a ghost, but it's still like clutching his chest.
Stuffy.
Stuffy points his hands at the 3 people he can see and shrieks, "Witches, deceivers, tempters, and demons! They've infiltrated us! Get them! Get them! They've interfered with the choosing!"
Fueled a little bit by adrenaline and by the fact that she successfully kept her mouth shut this whole time, there's a bit of a Cheshire grin, rogue, on Aviva's face, as her action before we get into this will be to use the surprise to create an easier exit for the people here. You go along with this demon reputation a bit to get that call going, to have some speed options.
You want to be a spoopy monster, then you can absolutely do that in front of all these fucking pilgrims.
Yeah, listen, I've been good. I deserve it.
You absolutely deserve
It's
it.
a treat.
It's a treat for
This
me.
is a treat for me. All right, put up the call.
2 successes.
Then gain your charges.
I'll spend 1 plasm in order to get effectively 2 charges due to how call works.
Mm-hmm.
And with those 2 charges, the first priority will be warping into that scuttling, spindly, gripping thing. And with that, the increase in speed, especially on this kind of uneven ground. It's also specifically gripping. It's very helpful for climbing
Yes.
in case of difficulties.
You will be taking no penalties for the terrain as you scramble. As you change into this monstrous form, shrieks and gasps from the crowd as they start screaming about demons.
Well, that's only 1 plasm, so I am gonna just make it, just as effective as possible, because we do need to leave here. I'll also get a bit bigger. The Sin Eater's body, Sin Eater. The Sin Eater's body bloats and swells. I'm only doing that once to, take the rest of the charge.
Get a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Yep. A little bit bigger, a little bit faster.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are terrified shrieks. There are people like signing themselves at you, and just, a couple fall to their knees begging for the mercy of the Lord. And a couple of the, maybe they're not as far gone, or maybe in life, even in their culture, they were a little less zealous than the people around them, start taking the slow process of loading up muskets.
My needle is provider. I regain all my willpower when I put myself at risk to provide for someone else.
That absolutely seems fair. You literally took someone else's place on a sacrificial altar.
Yeah. Kind of did.
Does not get much more literally self-sacrificing than that.
It does not.
Well, there's one more step.
Yeah, I could.
You could have thrown yourself in the pit with a dagger. Like, yeah, I guess.
That feels like a martyr thing, less a provider thing. But.
Yeah, for sure. Then yes, you may regain all your willpower.
Okay. Once Aviva starts getting bigger, Can Lola find her hand, or will that break stealth?
That will break stealth. As soon as you latch on to either her or Dan,
Lola will get clear of any of the villagers, anyone who could grab her and try and take the dagger or throw her down a hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then she will... Who's closer, Aviva or Dan? Actually, no, never mind. She's going to jump on Aviva because she sees Aviva's form as the ready-to-run form that she saw when fighting Ramona.
All right.
And she just kind of jumps on her back like a spider monkey.
You are visible as soon as you do that, but you are on her back, and there are gasps from the crowd that isn't like shrieking or cowering. They're like, oh, the chosen, the chosen.
And she's still holding the knife, but she will take off one arm of her jacket and pull it down so that it's covering the blade. It's still in her hand, but it's being covered by the jacket so she doesn't accidentally hit anyone with it.
Have anyone else touch it?
Right.
Damn it. Okay, fine, fair enough.
Loophole.
So, I'm going to say each of you gets 2 more actions before those muskets will be loaded.
I think the first thing I'm going to ask is, what's the plan, guys?
Get us back to where we started. And John starts casting.
Then let's go and not get shot.
I'll get
And
John.
I got Lola.
Dan, are you transforming? Or
Yes.
Are you... Okay. As one of the other villagers turns into a fucking wolf, there are more shrieks as just truly everything that these people think the Bible told them is coming true and is bad and awful.
Look, we're just confirming their religion as I turn into a giant dire wolf. That's
100%, yeah, yeah.
We're helping with the path of night.
Yep.
Yeah, they're doing it. Hooray. And there are more shrieks and panic, and 2 of the guys are like, you can't really load faster, but are just packing powder and God damn it. But with 2 rounds, if you, with your speed, Aviva and Dan, carrying the other 2 with your strengths, you guys can get back there and around out of sight before anybody could act. So essentially, so long as that you have a way out of here.
John mounts Dan and...
Say it again, but slower.
Nah. Really, though, so John mounts Dan, and after hopping onto him, he grabs a hold of his fur coat to sturdy himself, and with the other hand, he raises his hand and it starts to kind of take on this glow as he begins casting magic.
Aviva is just going to reach around and sweep Lola in front of her to protect the more damageable changeling from potential musket fire. It also becomes a princess carry, which
Hell
feels
yeah.
appropriate.
Lola wraps her arms around Aviva's neck and holds on, she never loses track of the knife. She is aware of where the blade is pointing at all times.
Okay.
So I spent my action transforming, getting next to him, and I will spend an essence to double my speed for this round, so I will go 38.
Yeah, so...
John holds on tight.
It's kind of weird. It's this more spiritual, so I'm not actually moving faster, I'm just covering more ground.
You Okami wolf.
Yeah.
And yeah, very quickly, all of you, with that, you guys have bought plenty of time.
Yep.
And you get back to, about the spot where you guys first came here.
Once there, John claps his hands together so that they're both glowing, and with his fingers entwined as if he's pulling 2 doors open, he reaches into nothing and starts to rip open a path back to where they came from.
Make me the roll.
I also want to know if there is a manifestation of John's power, visually or in feeling.
His increase in strength while he's in the Underworld.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't really a visual indicator per se. John still looked like John when he was down here. Lola, John's emotions are usually muted to your perception. They're a little bit grayer even down here.
Okay.
which is not something that happens to anybody else when they're down here. So there are little signs, but when he begins to manifest power, the energies of death surrounding him are palpable. He feels more potent, more enshrouded in the energies of death, to the point where even those of you who are not sensitive to death can feel it.
3 successes.
And a doorway that had been previously open to you is opened back to John's parlor.
You can close that, right?
It closes naturally, but we have to go through now.
Yeah, now.
Lola is still holding on to Aviva. Aviva goes through. Lola is not fighting that.
Oh, there is no slowing down.
Yeah,
Not even for that question.
we have 1 turn, so go through it.
Yeah, as long as I fit. Otherwise, I'll downshift as I go in.
But you could fit.
Okay.
And all of you rapidly run out of this not particularly nice section of the underworld back into John's home. And as soon as you cross the threshold of the Avernian Gate, all of you are back in your original clothes, covered in goop, as the clothes that had been given to you there immediately turn into ectoplasm as soon as they're on this side of the realm.
Aviva just licks her forearm and recovers all lost plasm
I was gonna
because
say-
she's covered in goop anyway, so might as well.
I'm really not sure what happens with this interaction because my clothes subsumed into me.
Your fur is very it's
It's
Don't
weird.
shake, Dan.
Aviva, there's some on my face. Get it.
I don't need that much.
Take it anyway.
it's Dan, for you it's like when you if you make slime out of Elmer's glue and then you get it in the carpet, it's just in your fur. It's awful.
Aviva had already had that semi-manic Cheshire grin at the fact that she's scaring all these I say poor people. They were sacrificing a bunch of people to death.
having-
to a terrible death, rather.
It was pretty awful.
But the fact of coming through and the panic of running away and downsizing and Dan's fur is all fucked up and wet and grimy and Lola trying to help and everything. She just starts the giggling it breaks down into just high energy giggling now that they're safe and they've achieved their objective.
Lola, on hearing Aviva laughing like they were screaming songs from Wicked in the back of the car, can't help but laugh along.
Okay. We made it back. John scans towards Lola. Do you have it?
Yes.
It was a handout.
You do.
Is
As
she-
a matter of fact, you are holding it because the cloth that you wrapped it in is also had turned to goo. So it's just right there. The blade does not turn to goo.
She carefully hands it to John.
John is going to study the object and see if he can figure out what it is that makes it so unique. If it's supernal in nature or what is it?
It is a weapon that is tied directly to the Kerberos itself. The more you study it here, the more you start to realize that it is by its own nature a thing of death. It was a sacrificial dagger of death tied to one of the lower Kerberoi in a realm very close to the Ocean of Fragments. It is steeped in the energy of death. The reason that it could slay something like the Antithanitou is that there is no object more closely tied to death. It's like summoning up the Grim Reaper and asking for his scythe.
Would you consider this object an otherworldly sacrament?
Yes. As you look at it, though, John, you realize this is tied directly to one of the Kerberos of the Lower Mysteries. Though no laws were broken, this essentially, functionally piece of the Kerberos is missing from that realm now. So it won't not be missed.
Yeah, I figure we have a little bit of time before something comes looking.
You may have a lot of time before something comes looking, but eventually something will come looking.
How many Avernian gates do we have?
Here in town,
Yep.
1 natural one.
Okay.
So I have a willpower question.
Yes.
Honestly, for both categories, saved and anti-hero, both have regain 1 willpower that could possibly apply here.
Anti-hero, absolutely. You turned into a demon monster and went blah, 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 to a bunch of like religious zealots and escaped by essentially doing a snatch and grab on a relic from the lower parts of the underworld. Saved, which knowledge from your old life, as in like your being alive life, did you apply?
Definitely against the Black Angel.
The Black
Yeah.
Angel. I would accept that knowledge of your pre-death life, of just your regular mortal life,
Oh, yeah.
to fuck over an angel. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
And the 4 of you, goopy and tired, sit in the floor of John's occult study.
All right. So,
Good job, everyone.
now for the hard part, huh?
Yeah.
John, how many bathrooms do you have?
3,
Okay. How many showers?
2.
I'm gonna take one. Dan probably should too. She looks at the matted werewolf, matted with ectoplasm.
I mean, it will dissipate pretty quickly, but
It's
you
a-
probably want to get that brackish water off you anyway.
It's in my shoes.
I would say it feels like a scene. I don't know where to keep going.
After all of your sojourn into the underworld, freshened up, there is that sort of giddy energy of the escape and the shenanigans. You're all tired. You need rest, but is anyone actually going to sleep yet?
No.
I cannot hear little shakes of the head.
I felt Erika answered for us all.
I think we lost something more along the lines of 5 or 6 hours too.
Yeah, you guys are a little
So it's more like 8 o'clock at night for us.
thrown around.
Yeah, we got that jet lag going on.
So, fair enough. What are you guys doing?
John is going to get changed into his swimming trunks. He's going to crack open a bottle of rum, make his way outside, and enjoy the pool and kind of call out to everyone to, hop on in if they're interested.
Lola, snaps up from where she had been, flopped weirdly on the couch and just, hadn't realized that there was a pool. And she just starts charging out, tearing off clothes. She gives it no second thoughts.
Let me ask, does she stop at her underwear, or is she just going full, fairest?
She looks like she would
nymph.
keep going, but has, one of those, oh, wait, nope, not there anymore.
Yeah. Fair enough. Anybody else joining John and Lola in the pool then?
I kind of figure I hear the call for the pool party episode, and I start to head out, and I'm moving a lot slower, and there's just a disrobing Lola barreling past me.
There's a shirt tossed on your head.
I get a little caught in picking up the trail of clothes, and I figure what is your dive into the pool? What is your entrance?
I have no clue whether she's going to be good at it or not, but she definitely attempts to backflip into the pool.
I mean, I need a Dex athletics for that.
If you're gonna make it complicated,
If you're showboating, I need a Dex athletics.
She's trying to do a dance entrance, but 2 successes.
Yeah, Lola's an incredibly graceful person, so you can jump in however you want.
She goes in like a sewing needle. She barely splashes. Provided there's a deep end to the pool, she will not do this if there's.
There's absolutely. John actually has the back patio. If you go around a little bit, it's a good-sized in-ground pool.
And he kind of pecked that pool with the intention of avoiding hitting his head on anything. So,
It's a very soft, cushy bottom.
no, it's just steep.
It's inflatable.
Yeah, it's
What it is, Lola, when you get into the water already, is warm. A pleasantly warm swim juxtaposed against. It's still late summer, but the night air is getting a little cooler at this time. So it's that nice thing where it's lit in the water, and there's the steam that comes off the top. where the warm water hits the cool air is a deeply pleasant experience.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll come in and kind of like that under your breath chuckle and a little bit of being impressed. That was a really good dive. I'll stop by John with a pile of clothes and say, hey, I'm going to take these upstairs anyway. Can I borrow a shirt or something? Or
John kind of swims right up to the edge looking up at her. Yeah, go ahead. Go nuts. Whatever you want.
Gotcha. And I'll head back on into the house.
I look around at like this vague bag of stuff that we brought in before, and I'm like, and brings out like these very short shorts, essentially, like old school weightlifting shorts, and I'm like, eh.
Yes.
Yeah, I slap those on, come strolling out, and then I do a full-on run cannonball.
Lola will let herself be moved around by the tidal wave that ensues when Dan cannonballs.
Yeah, seeing it coming, John kind of just lowers his head so it's submerged, and then comes back up again.
I don't think I float well.
You are a solid guy.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like a stone.
I think Aviva comes back down then with a couple t-shirts. She's not really sure if any of them... John has really nice stuff, especially when it comes to like some of his shoes and that kind of thing. So she's brought them over to the side of the pool to kind of show him and say, which one of these can actually go in chlorine?
He looks a little perplexed. Whichever one you want to wear.
All right, I'll just take the rest back up.
Yeah, come on, it'll be fun.
As Aviva goes back into the house, John, on like one of the tables by a deck chair or whatever, your phone starts to like buzz.
He makes a face at the time and kind of his eyes dart towards Dan. This might be for you. Give me one.
Oh, right.
I'll
yeah,
check
hold
one
on.
sec.
I climb out of the pool. Try to get the phone activated.
John actually gets out too, and then on the small chance that it's for him.
Hello, is it John? Or is this Dan? Did he give you his phone again?
This is Dan. What can I do for you?
I'd like to speak with my son.
All right. You're on speaker.
Please don't put me on speaker.
Dan, give me the phone.
Okay. You're definitely not on speaker anymore.
Like reaching up. Dan, give me the phone. Dan, he like hops up, trying to like.
Tell you
pull
what,
the
how
phone
about you
from
call
him.
me back when you deal with this? She hangs up.
Dan, give me the phone.
What? Your mother doesn't... Is
Give
not...
me my phone. Dan.
I will. I'm just saying.
Dan.
Your
He like
mother is
reaches
a-
up. Where
is
Dan's
a
just too
very
tall. Dan.
person.
Dan.
And I didn't want it to ruin our already great night. So, like, just make it quick, get her off the phone, and don't let her evil cackle or whatever, okay?
Lola is cracking up in the pool at the keep away game.
Give me my phone.
Here's your phone.
Thank you. What the fuck? John
I
takes
can't
like
believe this is the first time that's happened.
10 steps away from Dan. Tries to compose himself. Fuck. And then he calls his mom. Mom?
Tomorrow's a big day. Have you given any thought to making things easier on everyone?
You know, I'm afraid that offer's a little complicated now.
In what manner?
Well, it took some time. Admittedly, I'm not overly proud of how long it took me to figure it out. But you've been summoning things from the abyss, one of which was a gold moth. And I had to take some steps to address your actions. And unfortunately, the Black Angel I summoned hasn't taken too kindly to our shared story.
Principally, first, congratulations on being okay after summoning a black angel. Reckless, but nothing that Mother can't take care of.
I didn't say that I was okay.
Secondly, you're right. I'm also not proud of how long it took you. So, you didn't answer my question.
I think I did. The answer is, based on the choices you made on this road, there is no happy ending. And I
Not
wish you didn't do that.
the way that you're doing it. There are so many other things that you are as yet too limited to understand, but it's a simple matter. And even if you think that you can't have a happy ending, look at the people around you, John. What about them?
Tell me you're doing this for the sake of others.
I am doing
No.
what is best.
In high speech. In the language where no one can lie. Not even to themselves.
And in high speech, she responds to you, I am doing what I think is best.
Couldn't quite say it, could you?
You're certain there's no convincing you?
The only way that you'll convince me is by making me agree with you.
Fair enough. She hangs up the phone.
John's face kind of like darkens into a glower and he just fucking throws his phone into the pool.
Lola swims to the edge of the pool, kind of puts her arms on the edge, and looks at him.
Well, I guess there's no going back now.
Was there ever? Really?
I had a hope. He says, a little choked up on the last word.
Aviva heads back down, in one of the t-shirts anyway, that she had brought, and is a little confused at the change in demeanor.
Hey, John smiles, kind of trying to be quick to cover it. And his blue eyes are a little teary-eyed, but he's certain to smile, and he heads over to Aviva. So about that swim?
Yeah, sure. And she slips in.
John hops into the pool after her.
Lola starts doing backflips underwater.
What's up?
Just a call from my mom. Another here's your last chance or else speech.
Always a pleasure.
Lola pops up. Was this something you didn't anticipate?
I think on some level I knew. I've been bombarded with signs for ever since it all really started, but I kept kind of hoping that she would come around.
I think your mother will come around, but I don't think that changes that she needs to be stopped and what she's doing is wrong. I don't think it's wrong to have that hope, and my Grandma Dee always used to say, work like it's up to you and pray like it's up to God. I think hope is okay. I think it's invaluable in sometimes.
I didn't want to get my bad attitude about it to bring yours down, but at this point, really, I feel like she's given every sign that she's just gonna keep doing what she's doing. I don't see a way to reach her.
She threw away her ability to feel joy.
Yeah.
She threw away her ability to feel anything other than the cold logic.
And everything she's done knowing exactly what people mean to everyone else. Yeah, that memory was fun.
Yeah.
Why did she call it 2 a.m?
Because she probably knew we were back from somewhere. Like John said, she's a wizard.
John's eyes narrow.
I don't think she ever doesn't know where John is.
You're right.
Dan. Wits composure on a perception check.
3 successes.
Beats 2 successes as you hear the crunch of a footstep in the woods behind John's house. And you know, at first it's like, oh, maybe Jesse's coming back. We're expecting him any time now. But you know your brother's footsteps, and that's not Jesse. And then you hear more footsteps. There might be a group of people in the woods behind you.
We've got company.
What do you mean?
Bad company.
Aviva pulls herself out of the pool, grabbing up the bottle of rum along the way to take a swig out of.
Lola also lifts herself out of the pool and finds a shadow to step into. I'll be around.
Yeah, I'll be right back. And she, very quickly, the gauntlet was just set to the closest door by the pool, so she picks that right up.
And Stepping out of the tree line is Estrada.
Whew. Hey,
There's more than one.
And as soon as Dan says that, Estrada's head cocks to the side, and he raises the ever-present pistol at his hip and points it directly at Dan. I need everybody to roll initiative.
12.
7.
17.
15.
So the first up in initiative is not currently acting. So Dan, you know that there are other people in the woods behind Estrada. Estrada just happens to be the first one who walked out. He looks pissed. He looks angry. He cocked his head to the side, but in more of an analytical way, but he's just sneering, and he's looking specifically at you with the gun drawn, and then cocks his head and looks at John. Years of pent-up hatred.
It sounds like I am vaulting, pushing myself out of the pool, at the same time reflexively spending to shift into Dalu to engage him in a grapple.
Make me a quick athletics check,
Sure.
including your Dalu bonus. And if you do that, I will say that you have enough movement to get out of the pool and to Estrada in a single action and still grapple him.
1 success.
1 success is all you needed. You absolutely vault and shift into Dalu, striding quickly across the lawn to where Estrada is. You may attack Estrada. His defense is a 7.
2 successes.
2 successes is enough to grapple him.
I will use the action from that to...
Control weapon.
Yeah.
As you grapple him and just sort of keep the gun from pointing at anyone. Obviously in Dalu, you are much stronger than Estrada, but Estrada is a trained fighter. This is going to be tough. You control the gun and move it out of the hand. Move it out of the way. John, you are the next one up.
John realizes what's going on, and at the edge of the pool, he actually dives deeper, and underwater he's going to start casting. But that's it for now. It's going to take him a little longer to do what he wants to do.
Now it is Estrada. He's going to try and arrest out of the grapple so he can shoot you. It'll be contested.
Spending willpower.
So is he. Estrada has 6 successes.
5 successes.
Then he manages to worm out and step backwards away from you and just snarls. Back off, Swanson. Don't make me do this. But John has got to go down. So do the rest of you. You understand me? So back the fuck off, freak. Then he steps backwards and after snarling those words at you, levels the gun and will shoot you.
Sure.
Do you get to apply your defense in Dalu?
Yes, I do.
So what is your defense?
4.
Estrada has 8 agains on firearms. No fucking way.
20 successes.
Estrada has 8 agains on firearms in a 9-die pool. He has no successes.
Strata.
Look at this fucking shit. Oh my god, are you serious? He's got the Dan Swanson first combat roll.
Yeah, first combat roll. Yep.
Yeah, a gun fires. Definitely loud. In the night. Lola, you're up.
Lola definitely jumps from her hiding spot, at the sound of the gun. And silver bullets are not something she wants in play. So from her hiding spot, this will likely break her out of her hiding spot. But she begins swinging her arms. She brings them to a screeching halt. She'll spend the cost because she can't fulfill the loophole on this one. But she's going to freeze Estrada's gun in time and space. Yeah, when Lola has touched stuff with changeling hours in the past, it is usually something she's holding so she can determine, and she sets the thing she's holding in place. This time she's just taken the object.
Okay. Lola turns her arms, just whipping pool water around, and then as Estrada turns to point the gun back at you from where he misfired, you see it sparkle for just a second, and then he almost stumbles because the thing he was moving through open air ceases to move. And he just pulls on it and struggles and looks confused and pissed.
I know this trick.
Good move, Lola.
Thank you. Does that bust me out of my invisibility?
Oh, it absolutely busts you out.
Yep.
So you had to swing your arms around wildly.
Yep.
After that, coming out of the woods from behind Estrada, you see a group of, at this point, they're noisy. How they got this close to the house without making too much noise, probably not that hard to guess. 10 members of the Order of the Toolmaker, armed with pistols and shotguns, walk out of the woods. And they are going to open fire on the group of you. Aviva and Lola are going to have 2 pistols and a single shotgun fired at each of you.
Gotcha.
Dan is going to have 2 pistols and 2 shotguns fired at him. Lola, in total, you will take 3 lethal damage as, you guessed it, silver bullets rip into your body. These are just regular town folk so far. So their pools for attack are not huge, but there's a lot of them. Aviva, you will take 5 lethal as 2 bullets and the spread of a shotgun rip into you.
My defense applies into cascading values.
It does.
Yep.
For the first one, it's going to be a chance die. The chance die succeeds. The shotgun misses, but you will take a sum total of 4 aggravated damage as silver bullets rip into your body. And I need you to make a Caruth check. As the entire group now begins to exit, even under the gunfire, Aviva, you can't help but to see the dark tendrils that appear like human nerve endings coming out of the darkness, penetrating and wrapping around everyone who is out here. The familiar spaghetti nerve endings are wrapping around and into everyone who is here. The Akamoth that John called Thought Crimes doesn't just have to possess one person or 2 people. There may not be a limit to how many things it can possess at once.
Do I see the Akamoth itself?
Just the tendrils. It's probably close by. But you do not see the full actual thing quite yet.
Looks like it's a standard resolve composure.
It is, yes.
Looks like 3 successes.
Dan, the silver is burning into your body, but your friends are here and this is an emergency and you manage to keep yourself in check enough not to completely lose yourself to Caruth. And after the group comes out, Lola.
Yep.
Take 1 additional lethal as stepping out of the woods is Gary Wallace, who levels a gun at you and says, You took her from me. You took everything away from me. I hate you. You took her away. I hope you die. And he shot you. Dan, you will take 2 additional aggravated damage.
All right, I'm going to use an essence point for Berserker's Might and reduce that by 1.
Sure. Amber seems to be the last little member of this group who walks out of the woods and just fires a bullet into your chest. Did you think this was over? Did you think any of this was over? Everyone here is seething with a level of personal hatred that seems unwarranted. Like every negative thought they have ever had, any potential connection that may have been positive or even neutral has been corrupted and twisted. And everyone here wants you dead to an unreasonable and psychotic degree. And that is when, to Aviva's eyes only at this point, hovering mostly over all of them, is the Akamoth, the thing that John called Thought Crimes. and it looks and surveys and just hisses out a, "Let me in." And we're back to you, Dan. Right?
No.
No.
They all went, so I think you're missing...
Fuck, I'm missing you on my list. Where are you?
So I was going to say 7.
I'm totally sorry. You should have gone before the crowd. That is
Well-
my fault.
That's okay.
Okay. You may obviously go now.
Well, I feel that dramatically worked out anyways, because I just got shot a bunch. So, if I'm a little late, I'm a little late. The Akamoth comes into the picture as I am greeted by a hail of gunfire coming back out of the house, just barely finishing to strap on this gauntlet. And as I can see this Akamoth and the damage that it is causing and the people that it is hurting, I'm gonna barrel directly for it, ready to pull on the shroud to join with her Geist in order to just immediately do what she can do to rip this thing apart.
Because I fucked up and you guys took a bunch of bullets before you got to act, I am going to rectify that by allowing you to don the shroud and still take an action after crossing. I think that is a fair way to be like, I'm sorry for all the bullets before you got to act.
I am unwilling completely for the shroud not to work out right now. I'm going to use my last key. And a point of willpower.
This is the key of
Blood.
appropriate.
Yeah, it is. Let's beat this
The
fuck.
key of violent death.
Key of the thing pouring out of me right now.
Me too, buddy.
With the key of blood, you add your presence attribute.
So 2 more dice.
For your reference, to resolve this doom that comes from the key of blood, the next time you try and de-escalate a violent confrontation or get away from one, you automatically dramatically fail.
Oh no.
Yeah, that one doesn't actually seem to... I don't think I've ever seen you de-escalate violence.
4 successes.
You have donned the shroud, and you may immediately, if you wish, spend one of your charges to enter the twilight to face the Akamoth in personal combat.
I'll use 1 shroud charge right now to enter the shroud.
You are now physically in the twilight along with the Akamoth. The jellyfish part of it, like the part where all the nerve endings kind of come together, it doesn't even look humanoid at this point. There's like vaguely where the brain nerves would be, but the rest are just out wriggling and like writhing into and around where all these people are. And it turns and looks at you when you step into the place people aren't supposed to go.
Aviva had already been just in the pool. So, with the shroud over her, there's the t-shirt clinging to her, the wet hair streaming down her, almost like she was just in the underworld. And now with the shroud, there's an additional... Her geist shines on her like a light coating of blood. We're going straight in. This has too many people in its grip, and I don't know what else I can do about that.
Its ass is grass and you're going to mow it.
Mm-hmm.
And its defense, because of the amount of people it is currently possessing, its defense is currently a 3.
I will also spend that willpower then. Yeah, fuck this guy in particular. We're going to use the fighting style. We're going to go all out. We're going to go hard.
Payback applies to this.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Its defense is 15 minus the number of people it is possessing.
13 would make it 2 defense, wouldn't it?
It would make it 2 defense. Thank you for math, Tim.
10 guys
people,
come out, then
2
2 reveal
more.
for themselves from shadow, so 13.
13. It should be 2 defense.
I get 1
Thank
dice.
you for keeping me honest.
1 dice back?
Yep.
Okay. 2 successes?
6 damage. For reference, that's a shit ton of damage in a single attack. That's like shotgun damage.
She Superman punches it.
She does not kiss
Yeah.
her bicep first.
Yeah. Describe how you just jump directly into the twilight and fuck this thing's day up.
I warned you to stay away! Aviva yells out as she crosses into the twilight with her geist. And the two have that bloody sheen to them, working together. And that too seems to get on the gauntlet even before it comes straight towards the cluster that makes up the Akamoth. And once it does, the hit is vicious. Aviva is just going for absolute maximum damage. She knows she is hurt. It's hurting her. But she knows that if she doesn't get this done quickly, that there are a lot of guns out there and that friends are going to die. So she is holding nothing back and just going for it.
The Akamoth, makes this trilling hiss as you hit it. And Thought Crimes looks at you and goes, "You will suffer." And it will take its action.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of attacking you, John, what is your current resolve?
3.
And what is your gnosis?
3. I'll spend a willpower to increase that by 2.
Smart. With only a single success, it will not exert full control. But one of its tendrils whips past Aviva and instead plunges into the pool from the twilight, wrapping around John's neck and worming its way into his throat. John, on your action, you will say to Aviva every unkind thought you've ever had about her.
Am I able to take my action still, or is that my action?
That will be your action.
Okay, so I'll stop casting.
It's the abyssal entity.
I simply ask because it matters.
Oh, absolutely.
At the bottom of the pool? I've got questions. Are they to be answered when his turn comes around?
Yeah, he might have to swim up first.
That wasn't in the directives. He's just going to start talking to the water.
Then he'll start drowning. Win-win.
Yeah, that's where my brain was at.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He's drowning.
It's up to his interpretation. But basically, John, for your edification, what this feels like is an immediate corruption of every loving or caring thought you've ever had. Dredging up every petty or hateful thought that you've ever had to the surface, no matter how much they in reality don't mean anything to you. Right now, they are all you can think about. Dan, it's your action.
Oh, boy. This is not a real good option here. There's too many of them. I don't think I'm going to now with the silver. So I will spend the essence to go into Garu form.
I'm going to roll for the group, Gary, Amber, and Estrada all separately. You were in Dalu form, but you are now in Garu form.
Correct.
So they all take a -2 die penalty. The crowd is shaken. They will occasionally fail due to fear and take a -2 die penalty on all their actions because they are terrified. Thought Crime is not actually able to suppress negative emotions. Amber is shaken and will take the 2 die penalty. Gary is shaken and will take the 2 die penalty. Estrada stands his ground.
His defense is about to go way up. Fuck.
I'm spending willpower.
Well, holy shit.
I'm not dying to these yokels. Or more specifically, I'm not allowing everybody else to die to these yokels.
You were at a meeting with these yokels like 2 days ago.
I know.
Coffee and donuts.
Only 4.
As Dan becomes a massive Garu, still... This is the first time any of you have seen the Garu form while it's still bleeding. The silver bullet holes do not heal. And he just wades in. And Tim, describe the carnage of a Garu amidst just regular folk with guns.
I really think it's just a charging, just a huge swiping claw that takes the line of them and just, eviscerates them in just this misting spray, just splattering the trees and everything else around them as they just dissolve into chunks.
John, it's your turn.
So my intention is to follow the spirit of the mind control effect. John starts crawling out of the swimming pool, and Though he's loud enough to be heard, he's murmuring, "She hates this place, and she doesn't want to be around any of us. She just wants to leave. We're holding her back, and she looks down on us."
That's your action.
Yep.
And also kind of sweet that that's the most hateful thing you could think to
That's
say.
the best he's got.
Estrada turns and rounds and narrows his eyes at John. "Time for justice, you fucking murderer." And he goes and is going to try and tackle you into the pool.
Here we go again.
What is your defense?
5.
Just enraged because this is John. This is the guy he's obsessed over for years. He will spend a willpower. He gets an exceptional success. The first action of the grapple is that he reflexively and automatically pulls zip ties and grabs you, and as the two of you are, he's essentially tackling you into the water. You find your arms zip tied behind your back. Lola.
I would like to say no one's ever made Lola bleed her own blood, but that would be untrue. But this is bad, and like when things were bad before, doing nothing is the wrong answer. So Lola grabs the pool skimmer, and she levels it at the crowd. These pool skimmers are made of metal.
They are.
They are indeed.
And she takes a breath in and out and in and out and blows out a hurricane.
Well, all right.
They are under the effects of the heavy rain and heavy wind tilts.
It's going to be useful for taking the punch out of bullets.
Yep. But that's everyone.
So you have a series of attacks here to make.
Yep.
That is against everyone in the scene
Yes.
who is not you
Who is not me or...
or Aviva or Thought Crimes.
Yep.
Because they are in a different plane of reality. And 2 of the people in here, I'm going to give a defense penalty to because they are in a pool. They're in a
tracks.
lightning storm. So going down the list, let's start with the crowd. Just like last time with the Bechelou, this will be a down and dirty against the crowd.
Okay.
Amber and Gary, I'm going to make you roll against individually, unlike the rampaging werewolf. Defense 2.
2 successes.
The storm rapidly expands around you, wind and rain whipping everything, like tearing shingles off the roof, rattling the windows in their frames, and lightning strikes out from the storm, and 2 of the people from the order drop dead. Estrada has a 7 defense, but he will be removing 2 because he is submerged in a pool. So you'll be removing 5 dice.
2 successes.
He will take 1 point of lethal damage. Amber.
Okay.
She's defense 3.
1 success.
Lightning lashes out, striking Amber, who shrieks and lets go of the gun that she was holding. Gary.
What's his defense?
This is a 2.
1 success.
Gary will take a point of lethal and scream as the gun drops out of his hands. Dan.
5 defense.
I'm spending a willpower to give him...
To
more
give him the 2 defense bonus?
Yep.
All right.
It's still 1, so I don't think that matters because it was rolling 1 dice, but it was not a chance die. I think it's just a regular failure.
So just a failure. Okay.
Yep.
You managed to control the storm that is raging out of your control just enough not to shock Dan. John, what's your defense?
Currently a 4.
Is that including the -2 for being in the water?
No.
You will remove 2 dice when you attack John.
Nope, he's getting 2 of those back. 'Cause I'm spending a willpower for him too.
Okay.
All right.
Then
So-
he is defense 4.
2 successes.
John, you will take 2 points of lethal damage.
Way too much air escapes John's mouth as he goes to 3 levels of lethal damage on him.
Aviva, it is your turn.
What's the Akamoth's current defense?
It is an 8 defense.
So first things first, I'm going to spend a willpower. So we're going all out without my merit of retribution. And we're hoping that those 2 dice carry through.
All right.
I'll roll before I describe. I think that'll help. Stealing Tim's strategies. No luck.
The first hit that you got on it as you dove into the twilight was massive, like a shotgun to its existence.
Mm-hmm.
And with the severing of the strands that are controlling so many of the people who are dropping in the material world, it begins using them to like pull at your limbs and try and keep you away from it.
Yeah. She tries to punch and it successfully yanks her elbow right in time.
Every member of the group is now going to attempt to fire on Dan. That is still remaining.
Yep.
Because of the heavy rains and the heavy winds and his defense, no matter what, honestly, just because of the environmental factors, they are all at a chance to die.
Yep.
If any of them, just say this now, if any of them rolls a 1 for dramatic failure, their gun is just going to blow in their hands. None of them succeed. It's just more silver bullets rip into the trees around. Gary and Amber are going to use their actions to retrieve the guns that they had dropped. You can see them shaking in the wind and the rain and from the damage from the lightning, but the hate that they're feeling is overwhelming even the fear, even though they are still afraid and under the effects of lunacy. But that's going to basically be their entire actions. At the end of the round, I need everybody to roll me a Dex plus Athletics, including the people in the pool. No, you're just going to have the, you're at a -1 die penalty. And John, you are cuffed behind your back with your arms, so I'm going to give you an additional 2 die penalty.
I mean, the ones in the pool, if they're underwater, because it's flying debris is what they're dealing with. That's what that damage is
They're,
from.
I mean, Estrada's still there. They're thrashing around near the surface still.
Do I need to roll for this?
You do not, Lola. You are in the middle of the storm. You are the eye of the storm.
Do I need to roll for this?
You do not either. You're in the
Okay.
twilight. You are not affected by the storm.
John has 2 successes.
If you gain any successes, you do not take the bashing damage from the storm as it starts to whip, like, pool furniture and stuff up in the backyard.
5 successes.
Dan, you're in Garu form. Like, shit hits you and you don't even fucking care.
This is like one of my best rolls I've made this game.
Like
so far.
like a lawn chair comes out of nowhere and just a claw takes it out of the air. Like, no. Amber succeeds. Estrada succeeded. Gary will take a point of bashing.
Po buddy's nerfed.
As he gets the gun up and is like, I could have had and like a fucking branch hits him in the side of the head.
Feels on brand.
Feels on branch.
It feels on branch. Well played.
We're back to the top with the Akamoth, which will, at this point, lash out at you, Aviva, not to strangle, or not to possess, but to literally like a whip.
Mm-hmm.
What is your defense? You went all out. Your defense is 0. Never mind. You will take 4 points of bashing damage.
So how does that work? I can downgrade it, but I've got 3 boxes left.
You only have 3 boxes left.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get knocked unconscious.
Okay.
It is Dan.
You said 2 as a defense?
Yes, they only have a 2 defense.
-1 for the storm. That'll be 6.
With 6, you have, like I said, for the down and dirty, you can kill everyone remaining except Estrada. If you wish, you may kill everyone remaining except Estrada.
I don't think it's a wish. I think I have to.
So then describe to me how around the tree line you kill the remaining 10 members of the Toolmakers Union and then turn and kill Amber and kill Gary.
I think for some of these members, I punch my claw through one and just crush the head of the one behind it, killing them both. I just kind of charge with the bodies straight into the other ones and just rip them all apart, putting me probably in close proximity to where Amber and Gary are.
Absolutely.
And just bite Gary in half.
As you are coming back out, covered in blood, Lola, you see Gary finally managing to raise the pistol back at you. And then he is torn in half at the waist by Dan.
Lola, it's not a word, it's a sound. Just sort of a...
And then I think with the last of it, he just raises a foot up and just crushes Amber.
And she is stomped, hitting the ground and being crushed to death faster than gravity. Slammed into the dirt. John.
Can I see how far things have gone?
Yes, absolutely. You are underwater, like there's lightning strikes and the wind is howling. Estrada is, with your hands cuffed behind your back, Estrada is like drowning you essentially, just keeping your head just under the surface. Because you are looking up, you can see Dan, you can see the gore, you can see the violence. And do you currently have Death Sight up? Can you see into the twilight?
Yeah.
You can see what happened there too. As one of the tendrils of thought crimes lashes out, slams into Aviva, and while remaining in twilight, loses consciousness.
I'm going to take a -3 penalty to casting due to being grappled. John closes his eyes and, in a final act of desperation, ghost gates himself with 2 successes.
Then you are successful. Describe what that means.
John wiggles a little further down into the water and passes through it into twilight. I will not be bringing Estrada with me.
John, cuffed and soaking wet, you arrive in twilight. Aviva on the ground in the twilight version of the yard beyond the pool, and the Akamoth floating in air. Several of its tendrils now pointed back towards where you are, digging into Estrada on the other side of the veil. Estrada left confused as John disappeared.
You need to roll 4
I do.
dice
You
of
did
paradox.
that in front of a sleeper.
I'll be taking the paradox straight to health.
You will take 2 points of lethal
Okay.
as the touch of the abyss worms its way inside you and causes you harm for pushing the boundaries of magic beyond where they should have been in front of a sleeper.
John coughs out blood and does his best to make his way to Aviva.
Estrada, unclear what the fuck just happened as John, for all he can tell, just disappears in front of him. Swims to the surface, will use his move to get out of the water and lock eyes on Lola. You did this, didn't you? You sent him away or something, whatever the fuck's going on with you. I'll show you. But he doesn't have a ranged action. He doesn't have a gun right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to use his move to get out of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it for him for now. Aviva is unconscious.
Per the rules. She can't go unconscious from damage.
Oh, it's bashing.
Yep.
Fuck, I fucked that up. You are totally right. This is a Geist. Here's how we're going to do this.
I mean, it hasn't really affected anything so far.
It hasn't affected anything so far. It's not a thing that we've done.
I'm sorry, I'm not very good with the health system.
No, it's still... Dude, this is like a weird Geisty part.
Yeah, I figured it was like vampires.
It's a weird
Totally
edge
fair.
situation.
Tim, when you handed me the book... All right, I need to tell the audience. So Tim handed me the book to show me the health levels, but I didn't realize that's what he was doing because the book on the same page has death. And I was like, yeah, thank you, Tim. I can be really prepared.
I'm pointing at a line that says, "Geist can't go unconscious for damage."
Damage.
Okay, but like...
Unless I am incorrect, though, damage wraps.
No, okay.
Yeah, we'll wrap around.
This,
Yep.
right next... The word directly beneath it is death.
Yeah, but I'm specifically pointing at the hard to kill.
No, we're not getting mad at Tim. He was helpful.
So
No,
here's
I'm calling
I stand
myself
by
out.
Tim.
here's how we're going to run this. John, everything you saw, you saw. From your perspective, this changes nothing. John, you see Aviva get smashed into the ground, and for all intents and purposes, she's alone, unconscious or dead in the twilight in front of the Akamoth. Aviva, you get smashed into the ground as this thing whips out, and this is where, and it really hasn't come up yet, you are reminded that your body is not purely physical in this world or the other, that your organs are plasm. You are one of the bound, and you are not so easy to knock away. Then you are still, despite everything, on your feet. As John, behind you, pulls himself out of the pool in the twilight, looking I mean, John, you describe how you look when Aviva picks her head up and sees you.
John looks afraid. He's clearly like at the edge of death himself. And there's this panicked look in his eyes as he hobbles, crawls, what have you, to Aviva, unsure as to whether or not she's alive. And he's just like, Aviva, get up. You have to get up.
Aviva, it's your action.
I have a dumb idea, and you can feel free to tell me it doesn't work like this.
Sure.
I have seen that the way to lower its defense is for its tendrils to be caught up.
Mm-hmm.
Is a thing that I could do to grapple its tendrils to kill its defense.
So, if you get it in a grapple, its defense will drop. The problem is its defense applies to applying a grapple.
Effectively, what I'm going to do, I'm going to gain one of the Numina, usable while in Twilight through Shroud.
Okay.
That Numina is going to be hallucination, and I will be targeting the Akamoth with it.
All right.
In this case, I'm aiming to create a sight. Each success over a contested roll, it will alter the victim's senses. I'll spend a willpower. Four successes.
You blew a couple of 10s. The Akamoth got 2. You get to alter 2 of its senses.
So, it will see and it will hear this particular hallucination. What it will see is Ramona leading a group of the Union, and she will call out, "Use the reinforcements," to the Akamoth. A clear order, trying to mimic Ramona's dismissive tone.
If you had not been so directly impacted by Ramona, if you had not literally been inside of her brain, this deception may not have worked as well as it is. I had the Akamoth roll its attack to simultaneously possess as many people as it could. It cannot feel touch. That is not one of the things. So as soon as it makes impact, it will know that something is wrong. But you have bought a single round where it is at -10 defense.
Outstretch of a ghostly hand coated in the sheen that the key of blood lends to herself and her geist. An expression that somehow conveys the whispers that the Akamoth now hears. Determination through all of the bullet wounds and the real red blood. And she looks to John as the tendrils stretch away from the two of them.
The Akamoth will use its action to make that attack, possessing what it believes will be suddenly a dozen people as the mage who summoned it here and bound it here gives it an order, one that it hates to fulfill. But in that moment, in that snap reflex, does not immediately recognize that there is no magic behind the words. And that's its action, as that hissing voice comes out of it and goes, "Watch while I destroy your friends." Dan, it is your action.
It's just him, me, and Estrada, right?
It's just the 3 of you out here.
I'll spend an essence to reflexively shift into Dalu and run and tackle Estrada.
Make your attack. He is 7 defense.
Five successes.
Exceptional. You establish the grapple and you can do something else.
I'll hold him.
Get your fucking hands off me, Dan. Oh, it's you and that fucking freak body. Just get your hands off me.
I am bleeding all over him. That's my response.
Oh, absolutely. John.
I'm spending 3 mana. You have 1 paradox die against me. I'll take it as damage.
You're good.
Exceptional success.
Then gain back all the mana you just spent plus 1.
Nope. Instead,
Oh.
you may not apply your resistance to this, and you will suffer 6 levels of aggravated damage as I rend you and start to just strip you from existence.
Okay, first of all, not me.
Well, you then.
Yeah, I get it.
No, you.
6 levels of aggravated damage. Describe what this looks like.
John reaches out, and as he coughs blood, even though it won't help him with his spell casting to kind of keep focus, he starts to intone in high speech. And what he invokes is the withering of ages, and the veins start to dry and become brittle and break and crumble to ash. And as if turning a clock with his open palm, he starts to kill the ageless thing.
It thrashes and shrieks and flails in its rage, now aware of the deception that was pulled upon it as the mage starts to unmake it. And Aviva, you are right there. You are fighting it, and it is like a pile of angry snakes that are all turning on themselves as they begin to die. And it looks at the two of you and just begins to hiss, I hate you. I hate you. I'm going to skip straight to Aviva's turn here. And then we'll go into Estrada and Lola.
Sure.
Aviva, this thing is dying in front of you, shrieking as John, bloody in the twilight with you, incants. And it is trying to pull away as it shrivels, as it withers and becomes brittle, as the nerve endings that it had extended into the world begin to snap.
Defense of 3. I'll spend my last willpower. I will go all out. I will not apply my merit. I'm going to roll first to see how this goes. 3 successes.
Which will do 5 levels of damage to it because of the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
And as John begins to, or continues to incant, and this thing withers and shrieks and tries to pull away, just armored fist comes down and describe to me how the two of you together beat this thing back into oblivion.
Now that the deception is no longer of use, Aviva pulls back the bare hand, the one that she had used to help herself orient where the hallucination was in the Akamoth's mind. And with that motion, a wind back of the hand with the gauntlet. And she goes for the spots that John has withered and just pummels it. Thoughtlessly, all out, no regard for what this will do because the two of them are at their end if she doesn't. I imagine that when the gauntlet lands, it doesn't sound like she's beating anything like a creature anymore. Now that the ages have gotten to this being, and now that it's becoming even less of the approximation that it was, bits of it could crumble off into almost like a dust. But if it's shrieking, does it continue shrieking that it hates us? Or what does its dialogue turn into?
All the way to the bitter end.
Then, as John continues casting, and I continue pummeling, she's gonna make sure this thing is good and dead before she has anything of note to say to it. But in the last couple punches, she growls out, "Then die hating us!"
The last of its essence is dissipated as the two of you stand over the scant dust that remains of the thing that was sent to change the course of both of your lives.
Aviva's kneeling. She's gonna just keep on going for it.
It's over, John says, interjecting this kind, putting like his arms around her. He kisses her forehead and says, "We have to get to the others."
She might have continued, but the arms around her, they pull in the fists as she was about to lash out at it again. There's sort of a final war cry, but it turns into a cry of frustration and acceptance, and with that she'll prepare to exit the shroud.
Dan and Lola. It is Estrada's action. As time has it, he is still possessed. He's still struggling. He will try and escape your grapple, Dan. Roll me a contest.
Dan, Lola gives you a look like you've got this, So take a willpower.
He has 4 successes. Stop counting dice.
He's just picking them up at this point.
Yeah. I need one of your dice, actually.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Eight successes.
Yeah, so that's more than 4. So he's not going anywhere.
I will just keep the hold on him.
Estrada struggles, just spitting curses at the both of you. Lola, you're up.
Lola drops the storm and the pool skimmer. And she looks at Estrada. Probably some blood coming out of her mouth at this point. She's been shot in the stomach, center mass, a couple times. And she's got an arm wrapped around her bare stomach, like roses growing in limestone. She just looks at him. Normally she has very kind, honey-colored eyes. But at the moment they are just burning. And she looks at him, says, "I didn't do any of this. You did. But you were a tool. And I will not allow a tool to continue operating when it is causing damage." And she will spend a glamour to try so that next round she can paralyzing presence.
He looks back at you when you say that and just spits. You think I give a fuck what any of you people do?
Not now, but you will.
You're all gonna pay for this. Every single fucking one of you.
Turn your anger to the one who caused it.
I am.
She just looks at him with pity that he's been so fooled.
Dan, we get back to your round.
Yeah, I'm still maintaining the hold, so.
He's basically not going anywhere.
Yeah, we're struggling, but
The two of you struggle. He cannot break out of your grapple. Not in Dalu form. It's tough to maintain a hold on him. He's a fucking fighter, but so are you. And you are much bigger and stronger. You are Uratha. Lola, he doesn't seem at all moved by your words. Like he can't be moved by your words.
I will spend my last glamour as Lola's eyes flare. I'm going to spend my last willpower for an extra 3 dice. Four successes.
On his composure roll, he got none. So
He is insensate, and I don't like to prescribe what other people are feeling and what is causing them to feel that way, but this is little Dolores Gardner to his mind. This is not the creature that is standing before him, and it is towering and fiery and bloody and beautiful and terrible as the dawn, full Galadriel form.
is he feeling fear or awe?
He's feeling fear because she's Autumn Court and fuck his couch. He just let him march against my people. He can fear all he wants. That's
Dan,
all I want.
in your arms, the skilled grappler, the skilled hand-to-hand combatant, stops fighting with any sort of sense and just goes rigid in abject terror of the tiny woman standing in front of him.
Words, as she speaks, blood flows from her lips, and there seems to be the wind has caught her hair, drafting it up, hitting what little light is around, giving a halo sort of effect.
Were he not being held up, Nicholas Estrada would probably be on his knees. And then, moments later, there's a shift in his demeanor, though he remains terrified and unable to bring himself to act in any way, as though something that was driving him forward, the hate, goes out of him as a tendril somewhere in the twilight is severed.
When he seems to be no longer be under someone else's control, she will drop it and go to her own knees.
John, Aviva, the two of you are in twilight amidst the slowly disappearing remains of the Akamoth thought crimes. Everything is quiet for the moment. Brief mechanical thing. Rebecca, Aviva has gained back both the key of chance and the key of blood based on resonances and resolving the doom condition for them. Before we go into stuff in the future, just want to let you know that's where you're at. the Key of Pyroflame is still expended, and you are still under the doom of the Key of Pyroflame.
Gotcha. And the Key of Blood has been resolved by the exceptional success from this past fight
Yep.
and by the circumstance?
Yes.
Because it's resonant of blood.
Yes.
And then the Key of Chance was resolved by the actions taken to help Alice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. So those are both, again, available to you. Should have said that earlier, but it's where we are now.
No?
And Key of Pyroflame, you are still under its doom.
Cool.
Jean sits down with her arms around her and definitely tries to console her while aware of the carnage that's just happened.
She doesn't fight that much. There's still the urge to continue ripping at the corpse of the Akamoth. What does it look like as it's sort of fading away?
So have you ever seen like the bodies exhibit or any of those like science diagrams of human nerve endings that like all laid out but with no other, no meat, no bones, no anything, but it gets really like dried out and desiccated because it's old?
So when it had previously looked like those body exhibits, now it has that crunchiness.
The crunchiness, the sort of yellowed coloring of like this thing was left in a museum exhibit for way too long, too many years, and it's just dried out and bleached looking, and is, as you were hitting it after it died, like parts of it were crumbling to powder, like you were just pounding coral with your fists.
Mm-hmm. So as Aviva goes to speak, she's clearly speaking towards what's left of the Akamoth, the idea of it. And she says, "No more rematches! This is the last one. Okay, you don't come back, and I won't do this to you again. Stay dead."
Aviva,
What?
it's gone. You did it. It's dead, and it's not coming back.
I almost didn't.
I know.
You're not okay, but...
Honestly, I couldn't see a whole lot of what was going on. Estrada, I almost drowned.
Yeah, I would fucking kill him if I didn't know what that was like.
It's not his fault,
I know. You said that.
but I know who is to blame.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I couldn't see how far gone she was. She succumbed to madness. It's the only thing that explains this.
You don't have to apologize for that. I'm sorry I was right. She's like serious when she says that.
Oh yeah, no,
Good line.
Makes it so much better.
John doesn't smile. I absolutely smile at that.
Does this thing have a chance of coming back, or you know about the abyss? You know how this works.
That is, John stops himself before going on a long rant. I don't know exactly how the abyss works.
But not soon.
What I do know is that whether you've sent it back to the abyss or destroyed it utterly, this thing is not going to be a problem again.
Good. Then we should check in on the others.
Right. John kind of looks down. I'm going to head back to the pool and cross over.
Are you... And Aviva kind of stops him and offers to help him up. Is he damaged, or is he just shaky from having almost drowned?
So fucked up.
Okay, then absolutely. Instead of kind of letting him go alone, she's going to make sure to escort him back to where he would come through.
He seems like he might almost resist, not because it's Aviva, but because... Actually, yes, because it's Aviva, but not for particularly obvious reasons, but he's having a lot of trouble walking, so he ends up holding on to her. And when they make it to the pool, he steps in and will shift back out of Twilight, presumably along with Aviva.
Yeah, she comes through in her own way with John and is still making sure that he's coming up to the surface with her.
John,
Yeah.
What happens to your material possessions when you step back from the twilight?
They turn into ghost stuff.
Your bonds and your swim trunks turn to ectoplasm, and in the water of the pool are just washed away and gone. Dan and Lola, before the two of them return, you are outside, wounded, shaky. Estrada is confused on his knees in front of you, Lola, after you had awed him into submission.
Lola is also on her knees. When she had seen Estrada come back, felt his unnatural rage and just chaotic rage fade. She dropped to her knees because it's pretty apparent she's been shot a few times. Just been swimming in her underwear. I'm assuming most of the shots are center mass. So she kind of just catches her breath for a moment before lifting her head and seeing Estrada coming back to his senses. And is Dan still behind him? Because I know he had been grappling him at some point.
Yeah, I haven't moved too far. I am. And so as part of Estrada at this point, just probably covered in blood from head to toe. I don't really know how that translates between shifts, but I think it stays with me.
Yeah.
And that means probably Estrada's covered in a serious amount of gore also.
The way that you had been holding him, most of Estrada's back, he's kneeling in front of Lola, and his back is just covered in not just your blood,
right.
a lot of blood. You can see bits of bone and skin and hair, even just having had you hold him like that, sort of tucked into his Kevlar vest, under the buckles. He's not aware of it yet. Dan, you are covered in gore.
So Lola crawls over to the two of them and she rises up on her knees. She doesn't actually try and stand up, but she grabs Dan by the shoulder and finds his eyes and looks at him please be okay.
Dan allows a brief touch on him, but he kind of gently removes it and essentially gives her a holding, just like a
give me a minute.
Yeah, kind of symbol, and just kind of walks over towards one of the patio furniture outside chair and just sits, kind of not looking over the rest of the yard. And it's pretty clear he's in a decent amount of pain still. The wounds have probably stopped bleeding, but it's hard to tell, but they're probably still visible to some degree or another.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's subtle.
No, Lola, Dan is riddled with bullet holes.
Mm-hmm. So she respects that he needs a minute.
You have seen Dan heal from damage before.
Mm-hmm.
And while the various scrapes and cuts that you would get from combat are, healed or gone, a little bruising or whatever is going away, those bullet holes remain.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine they look burning almost.
Nothing that you can really visibly see, but the fact that they are not closing when you have seen him close pretty horrific wounds before.
Yeah. That first Bechelou fight alone.
He was covered in acidic poisonous gore and walked away fine.
Mm-hmm. Her worry is still very apparent for him, but she gives him the space he requested. And she turns to Estrada and moves so that if he looks to see the carnage of the yard, he's just going to see her first.
Unless you have voluntarily dropped the effects you had on him.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, once she saw him come back and that anger dissipate, she dropped it.
Estrada gets back to his feet, looks around, confused, and just blanches. And you get the very quick impression that while he may understand that the feelings he had were not natural, they were based in something natural, and you see the horror and the guilt as he just blanches, looking at everything. And then there was a splash of displacement of water in the pool itself as Aviva and a very naked John just appear.
So to caveat that a bit, I am actively trying to keep him from looking at the carnage.
He will mostly look at you.
Okay.
Estrada is very good at a couple things,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing stuff is one of them.
Yep.
So you will see in his eyes that while he cannot help but to see the carnage, no matter what you're doing here,
Mm-hmm.
he recognizes to a certain degree what you are doing, and so uses Lola and just looking at Lola as sort of like an emotional anchor.
Mhm.
So like he does not freak out. He has a tolerance for biology, so
Mhm.
like the gore, it's more the emotional weight. And
Yeah.
so he just focuses on Lola to try and center himself.
She gave you poison and told you it was medicine so that she could be the one to help you. This wasn't you. This was... You were her toy.
I thought I had put a lot of that stuff behind me, but she just... Well, she didn't do anything. I didn't see her.
You don't have to see her.
Just that every angry, obsessive thought that I've had about John fucking Taggert over the last few years, just, it was like I was all right there. I thought we had put it behind us. I thought I had put it behind me, and it was just...
You did. She made you feel it again because it suited her purposes.
Fuck me. And John and Aviva, the two of you, will come back around that time as Lola is talking to Estrada.
Are you guys all right?
Only a little full of bullet holes, but it'll be okay with some plasm and... John, do you have a way to... and Aviva, a little stronger of a roll of the eyes than might be necessary, takes off the t-shirt that she had gotten for the purposes of swimming and just... a little sick of distributing what she's wearing to the men in this group who keep losing their clothes, just shoves it towards John's direction.
Thanks. John humbly accepts the shirt. Kind of starts to wrap it around his waist.
She crosses her arms over herself. She wasn't planning on joining Lola in this level of clothing.
In the underpants party.
In the underpants party, but some things take priority.
Mm-hmm.
And so crossing her arms over herself does sort of emphasize the fact that Aviva also, she's got shotgun wounds, she's got some of the handgun wounds, and all the damage that the Akamoth poured on her. She's healing a bit like Dan, but she's going to need more. And she finishes her thought looking over to John and says, "Are you stuck like that, or do you have a way to get better, or..."
I just need some time to heal and, I don't know, not be shot at for a little bit.
Estrada, I only heard the, last half of whatever that was, but you've been wondering a long time what happened to me, right? And I explained half of it, and now you got front row seats. So...
Does this oily feeling ever go away?
Yeah, you know what? It does. It takes a while. You're gonna have to work on it. It doesn't just go away with time or thought. You have to actively decide to move past it and to know that you're more than that. But it does go away if you put the effort in. And hey, you get to not have to figure out your way from the underworld about it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Dan's really hurt.
What?
Estrada immediately looks over at Dan.
Dan?
Dan's really hurt. It's not going away, and once she's articulated it, Lola starts shaking. Like, oh my god, everybody is hurt.
They had silver.
What do you need?
Time.
How much?
Weeks.
Oh, shit.
I might be able to shorten that a little bit. There's stuff I can get.
It's not debilitating. It'll be fine for now.
What's the stuff?
Dan, remember when we fought the Bechalou and I ate the thing while you wrapped me up like a burrito?
Vaguely.
That. I can get more of that.
At what cost?
Nothing you need to worry about.
Then don't do it. It's just time.
We don't have it. Not that much. Despite how unhelpful a wet t-shirt is over his crotch, he kind of like make sure it's situated as best he can And after, the half second of that, we'll actually start to make his way to Dan. Dan, how bad are we talking here?
Oh,
And
still-
just fucking inspect the bullet wounds.
I was still hurt from Rot's caress. Not a ton, but some. But I haven't been this bad in a while. I don't know. Probably a month.
John, just from looking, just a cursory medical inspection here. If Dan was anyone but Dan, he would be dead right now.
We gotta get you inside. You up for it? You good to move?
I figured why clean up. We got a bunch of stuff to take care of first.
I'll take care of that.
We can...
I promise.
I'm already a mess.
Yes. That's why you need to get inside.
Estrada, you're not okay either.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I mean, I'm
Okay,
not fine, but I'm...
I see how obnoxious I am to everyone else now.
No, Lola, truly. I'm not
John actually smiles.
I'm not too hurt, okay? I can at least get the billets out of you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, it's not going to be the standard here. But we did what we had to do, okay?
Nobody here wanted this.
Yeah. We weren't given a choice. This was a situation in which someone set a bunch of things in motion to ensure there would be violence. So we made sure that we could go ahead and end that later.
Jesse, off in the woods, heading back to John's place. Your business with Aunt June and your grandma concluded, and you have now seen, through your time scouting around at night, the tower beginning to build back upon itself, as if it had been built from the ground up. The top is now building itself and folding back in itself down towards the ground in sort of irregular pace. And you get the overwhelming feeling, of basically a countdown timer. Like the infrastructure was built and now everything, all the materials are building back on themselves. It just needs a little extra push. You're also aware that the Order of the Toolmaker had been keeping those pins that they are going to use to corrupt the souls of everyone in town that they can get their hands on inside the factory. And going in there alone is suicide. But you have the information. You are heading back to John's place, and you can smell blood. A lot of blood on the wind.
Blood and cordite. Jesse starts hustling back towards the house. He thought he was going to be clever and get away and help Aunt June and Grandma take care of a body with a big shotgun hole in it, and just get that taken care of while everyone hangs out and has a little pool party. He thought he probably had the roughest night, having to deal with a dead body with a shotgun blast. So he managed to afterwards take a shower and redress, some new clothes, and maybe actually even bring some fried food for everybody else to enjoy. So when he gets back to John's place, it's almost like the parents coming home from Fight for Your Right in the Beastie Boys, where they're walking through a mess, and he's kind of tiptoeing past all of the carnage. The contrast of just him kind of actually, cleaned up and carrying 2 bags of food, spotting everybody else in tatters of clothing, covered in gore, sitting in a pool of bloody water. His mouth is just kind of agape, and he is lost for words.
The thing that draws your most immediate attention is John and Officer Estrada helping Dan limp into the house as you arrive. Forgetting Ashville is an actual play Chronicles of Darkness podcast set in the fictional New England town of Ashville. Aviva Caradonna was played by Rebecca Steigelfest. Dan Swanson was played by Tim Davis. Jesse Swanson was played by Garrett Gabbey. John Taggert was played by Lex Lopez. Lola Gardner was played by Erika Webb. Your storyteller was Rob Muirhead. Recording and editing by Rebecca Steigelfest. The music used in this episode was by Victoria Borodnova. You can find their music on pixabay.com. Forgetting Ashville uses the 2nd edition Chronicles of Darkness rule sets, including Changeling the Lost, Geist the Sin Eater, Mage the Awakening, Werewolf the Forsaken, and other Chronicles source materials, with a few select house rules. The Chronicles of Darkness are produced by Onyx Path Publishing. Make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at @PathOfNightPod, on Facebook at facebook.com/PathOfNightPodcast, or email us at pathofnightpodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show at coffee.com/pathofnight. See you next time, Outsiders. And just because this is John and he is enraged and this is the guy he has obsessed over for years, he will spend a willpower.
What? No, that was the now kiss motion.
I thought that was the Rob you were looking away from the mic motion.
Yeah, you gotta.
I was like,
You
why
know,
is he?
the
I'm
kiss is
sorry.
this.
I was
Yeah,
like, why
that's
is
what
he
I did.
saying that twice?
No, you're holding your hands like
Yeah.
this.
Oh, do I have to?
There's a slight
there's a
cut, like
cup?
you're grabbing the back of
There's
heads
a-
and
there's a
forcing them
nuance.
together.
Oh, I'm
There's a
sorry.
nuance.
I'm new.
It's okay. It's all right. You're learning. I'm not the only one who can do the now kiss motion, Rob.
Yeah, she's teaching me.
That's my Padawan over there.